This is the Nedfoss Knives Tiger Knife. Nedfoss Knives Tiger Knife. This is a brand I had not heard of until they reached out to me and asked me to take a look at one of four knives. The knife I chose, they didn't have. It was this cool looking kukri, and so they sent me this one. Now, this is a company that is making an earnest attempt at entry into the knife enthusiast market in the United States. And so they asked me to take a look at one of their knives and make a video. And that's what I'm going to do. And since they sent this to me for free, thank you very much. I'm going to give it, I've spent some time with it. I've taken notes, which you probably know I don't do for my videos much. But I figured since they're trying to break into this market and really want to want the straight dope, I'm going to give it to them as I see it. There are some positives and there are some negatives to this knife, and we'll get to them. All right, so Nedfoss Knives, you can find them on, they have a whole website within Amazon, and they have quite a wide product line. Folders, fixed blade knives, and well, folders and fixed blades. Some very, very fancy knives with Damascus and fancy looking materials, and then others that are more utilitarian, EDC style knives and outdoor knives. So this knife that they sent me, the Tiger, this is going to be my first little bit of critical advice, and that is that this is called this Tiger knife, which if you look at it is a very kind of tactical, almost fantasy style knife, is on their bushcraft page. This is on their like outdoor page. And to me, this is not really an outdoor knife. There are many other kind of knives that excel at outdoor utility chores way over this. To me, I look at this and I see a fighting knife. I see a tactical knife, and a tactical knife that leans into, I don't know, kind of fantasy, the swoop and the harpoon, and it reminds me a little bit of a Gil Hibben design knife. So immediately my thought was this knife has an identity crisis, but, you know, you can chalk that up to language differences. You can chalk that up to a lot of different things. I would just put this in a different category. To me, this is not a bushcraft knife. But then, upon closer viewing, I started to wonder if maybe there was some intention for outdoors when designing this, because this this finger choil thing here, I presumed that this was a finger choil when I first got this, and I thought, boy, that's for like the smallest pinky in the world. Like, that is not a finger choil of any use. And then I thought, well, they are marketing this for the outdoors. Maybe that is for striking ferro rods. And that is indeed a, you can see it pulled off a little bit of skin there. That is a 90-degree angle there. So I think that's what that's for. And actually, it's pretty clever. I haven't seen that. It would actually be nice on the back of the blade, maybe up in this position, and you could use it to lift hot pots off of the fire, as well as strike ferro rods and that kind of thing, you know, past where you would put your thumb. But if this is for ferro rods, okay, that's an interesting addition. I am not going to evaluate this as an outdoor knife, because I'm just going to try and evaluate this as a knife, because I view things through that more weapony tactical lens, only because that is my area of interest when it comes to knife design primarily. And I look at this and I think that's what they're going for. It's got this full steel or aluminum hilt. I'm not sure. I think that is steel. This is all, well, this is a full tang, and then this I think is probably steel. Nicely hafted on there. This is some sort of wood, some sort of dark wood. I'm not sure if it's a light wood stained or if it's a dark wood like ebony or something. Something tells me it's not ebony, though. You can see there are little areas in the finger contouring, which for my medium-sized hands, are snug. And, well, they feel perfect. But if you have bigger hands than I do, and I'm betting half of you do, this is going to feel a little bit crowded. Especially if you're using the knife for, say, its intended purpose, outdoor stuff, and you're doing a lot of bearing down and carving wood, this might prove to be a little too stringent in where you need to place your fingers, because as you work, your fingers might move around a little bit, and you don't want to find them on that peak. But for a tactical, or I should just, let's just say, for a fighting knife, you know, that sort of real, sorry for that sound effect. I just went back to 5th grade there. But that, for those sort of knife fighting, imaginary sort of knife fighting purposes, that sort of really tight grip would be nice. It seems to make sense. So yes, knife with an identity crisis, pretty stout, I gotta say. It is a solid slab of steel. What kind of steel? I'm not sure. I looked at this. It does purport to be stainless. I can't remember if it said what kind. I did not put it down in my notes, so something tells me it did not. So I'm gonna do a couple of pros and a couple of cons here. Pros. You've got a full tang construction here, so this is very, very strong. There's you know, there are no weak points really. So far as I can see. Look, this tang is a true full tang. You can see it on both sides, and you know, presumably it remains full width right here, and so this is a very strong knife. It came very sharp, but oddly the edge starts right here, right where my thumbnail is. You can see right where it starts there. And it gets very sharp, very fast. It's a hollow grind, so it's nice and thin behind the edge. I have no doubt you could put this to good use. But this whole area here is a mess. It's a mess, frankly. And when you're gripping this, that edge, that sharp edge, is starting 2.5 inches from the top of your hand. So you're losing a good amount of cutting edge. If you continue that razor edge, and that's a damn sharp edge, if you can continue that right down to here, just put a little sharpening choil and continue that sharp edge down to here, it would be so much better. So much better. But as it is, you have this sort of confusing area, and frankly, it's a space waster. And you know, if you really do need to strike a ferro rod with this knife, well, you got a 90. You could create a 90-degree spine back here, but you don't need to waste, you know, a solid 2 inches, and then you got the 1/2 inch guard there, but you don't need to waste a solid 2 inches there without edge. So I say take this beautiful, sharp, even edge, pretty nicely ground edge. You know, you get to the tip, it widens out a little. That's kind of typical. But for a, you know, inexpensive factory knife, this is a $35 knife. It's a pretty darn good edge, and it's a pretty nice hollow grind. And it does get very sharp. Sturdy, balanced. This thing does have very, very nice balance. Right there at the guard, right there at the first finger choil. I mean, it's, again, this is knife fighting balance, baby. This is, I don't know what you want your bushcraft knives to be balanced like, but this is really nice for the kind of uses I'm thinking this would be more suited towards, if you continued that edge down to here. That harpoon, it's nice. I'm not a huge harpoon fan on any knife, I gotta say. So right here, it doesn't do much for me, though. Again, it reminds me of a Gil Hibben knife a little bit. The Swedge is nicely ground. This blade is very nicely ground, I have to say. But there is a bit of a factor that seems like it's a little bit confused. Part of that is in the marketing, so that's easily fixed. The other part is in this area, and I'm going to keep going on about it, but this is interesting, but not on this knife. How about that? Interesting, but not on this knife. Again, handle, you might, Nedfoss, you might consider making the handle a little bit bigger. and maybe just one choil, and then the rest flat. So a lot of different size hands could use it. Like I said, my hands are not huge, so someone with really big hands might grab this and find this to be a little too much of a, a cramp in their style. So I'm sure you made a million of these, but once these sell and you reiterate, you might make this area smooth and a little bit longer, and it will probably appeal to more people. Now, I've called this knife the Nedfoss Tiger, which is how it's labeled here, and Nedfoss is how you're going to find it. But then it says Knife SD, or Knives D, or Knifes D. I guess it's Knife SD here and on the sheath. And I'm not sure what Knife SD is. And since we're here, let's talk about the sheath. It is an imitation leather, imitation, that sort of Western embossed leather sheath. Now, for a very inexpensive sheath, it's not bad. You know, I've seen worse. It's got a very good snap for good retention. That's a good thing. This fits nicely in there with very little. I mean, it's got a slight rattle, but it fits in snugly, and it's not too long. I hate sheaths that are too long for the blade. 35 bucks. I gotta say, right now, there are other knives for 35 bucks that I would get either as tactical fighting knives or for outdoor knives. I think this is a good entry-level knife, but I do think that Nedfoss Knives should consider some of the things I've said to really appeal to the American knife enthusiast market. There are some things, you know, people get to be snobs with their knives, and there are certain things that they will not abide by at a certain level. So just be careful with your price point. Be aware of what Americans can get for 35 bucks, you know, looking at Cold Steel and other, high-value manufacturers, and go from there. I'd say the Nedfoss Tiger should also move from the bushcraft page to the, fighting knife, tactical, military knife page, just due to the design. Thank you, Nedfoss Knives, Kiki, for sending this to me. I appreciate it. That is my honest take of this knife. I only can assume that that's what you want, my honest take, because you sought out me. So here you go. Thank you very much, and everybody, take care.